Hey guys, and welcome back to East Horror Lounge. This is episode 2, and I believe that this episode is supposed to be coming out on August 8th. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time, then there's only one more episode to catch up on, so it should be pretty easy for you to catch up on it. I want to say start off again by saying thank you to all of you guys, because again, like I said in the first episode, it really means a lot to me, any of you guys that, even listen to this podcast for just a second. Hopefully, if you guys are only tuned in for a little while, hopefully you guys hear this, and because I just want to say thank you to all of you guys. It really means a lot to me for all of you guys that listen, because I am doing this so that I can entertain you guys. Hopefully you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And hopefully if your day is not going the best, or if you're a little bit stressed out right now, hopefully I can entertain you for 15 minutes, possibly get your mind off of real life for just the 15 minutes that I'm on. And I have a very interesting story for today about the Belmez faces. For people that already know about the Belmez faces, you guys are probably tired of hearing the story, but it is a relatively more popular story, but it's also just a great one to hear. It's a very mysterious one that's still filled with a lot of unanswered questions. And the title for the episode today is Why I Hate Spanish Floors. For the people that already know about Belmez faces, you would know why the title is Why I Hate Spanish Floors, but without any further, ramblings from me, I'm just gonna jump right into it. The Belmez faces in Belmez, Spain, around the early 1970s, a very odd occurrence started to happen on the floor of a private house. According to the owner of the house, there was a small stain on her concrete floor that would continually get darker. Eventually, she noticed that there was a small face that started to get stained into her floor from the spot that was there, and she tried to clean the spot because, who wouldn't? It's a creepy occurrence, and if you can get rid of it with just like a little bit of soap, why not try it? But that came to no success, and in order to comfort his wife, the husband decided to destroy the area that the face was in with a pickaxe. He then covered it with new concrete, and after a couple of days, the face appeared again. Along these line of events, more and more started to appear, and since the faces continued to appear, she decided to complain to the mayor of Belmez. Okay, so this is a lot to already take in. So basically, this Spanish mother starts to find faces in her floor. To those of you guys that aren't creeped out right now, I wonder why. But I'm just gonna keep on going on, because the story gets creepier and creepier as this whole thing goes on. She decided to complain to the mayor of Belmez, and he ordered for a piece of one of the faces to be cut out and to be tested on. Now, this whole occurrence started to happen in 1971, and by April of 1972, her house would have hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of tourists who would continue to show up to see the very odd occurrence that was happening. And if you guys can, pull up a picture of the lines that would be waiting outside of her house to get in, because seriously, there were a lot of people that really wanted to see these faces. The family became relatively popular around Belmez and around other more local parts of Spain. And there ended up being numerous other efforts to figure out why this was happening. the thing about all these efforts to figure out why it was happening is that there has still been no solid answer for the original phases. Some of these efforts were experiments, and others were more accusations of a hoax by parapsychologists. But everything has its skeptics. A lot of people decide to accuse the family of painting or dyeing the floor for financial gain and popularity. This thought seems very plausible. Again, like I said, everyone wants financial gain, and this is a very fast way to do it, since tourism is a very smart idea. And also they ended up becoming Spanish celebrities whenever this was kind of going on. So, with those two kind of pros going on, it wouldn't be too crazy to say that they might have done it themselves. But then they decided, so a group of scientists decided to test the concrete to see if they would find any trace of lead, to see if it was there was any type of lead paint, and there was no trace of any paint. And there's no signs of paint, and also no signs of dye. And later on in this story, I'm gonna bring that back up a little bit, because this actually has a lot to do with this whole story. But now that the hoax still wasn't proven with the paint or dye theory, they had to try to find other solutions, obviously, and a group of scientists thought that maybe the sun was causing this. So they decided to put a plastic sheet over some of the faces and put wax over the fence, or over the faces, to see if they would continue to change. After the experiment was over, they found that the faces would continue to change, and they soon they were completely covered, and they found that they continued to change. A lot of skeptics decided to criticize this experiment because they apparently were using a plastic sheet that was too translucent and allowed too much sun to shine through, therefore making the experiment practically useless. And although those are kind of, those are pretty creepy, the experiments that went on and the fact that it still didn't manage to prove what was going on, they decided to go for an effort, which was they decided to take out the floor of the kitchen, which was where most of the faces were appearing, to see if anything was under it that could be causing, this abnormality to happen. And so they took out the floor, and underneath the house was a pit, and they discovered several skeletons of human beings. And they soon found out a little bit after that the house was built on an old burial ground. And afterwards, the bodies were buried again, and a new floor was laid down in the kitchen. So, some of you guys might be thinking, it was like, it might have just been skeletons. So, the problem is now solved. They just put down a new floor. But then the faces started to appear again. And this is whenever a lot of skeptics decided to just kind of own up and to stop trying to answer these questions. And, but then more and more parapsychologists decided to come out, and they decided to say that they believe it to be thoughtographic phenomenon that was subconsciously created by the owner of the house, who was a known psychic in Spain. And this is, of course, a very falsifiable claim, leaving that theory to end up fading away. And very sadly, in 2004, Maria, who was the mother that spotted the faces, passed away, and as did the faces. Afterwards, the faces started to appear again. This, of course, the skeptics started to come back a little bit more because the woman died, they went away for a little bit, and now they're just coming back after she's dead. So, they decided to start testing and to see if there was actually any tampering from Maria. And they then they decided to start taking out the concrete. They took out a spot of it, tested on it, and found out that there's paint on it. So they then found that her second son had began painting them after she died and after the faces started to go away because he started to lose the money from the tourists. And this really just makes me think, if was it just the fact that they just found that there was paint on them, and I wonder if the paint was on them the whole time, and if their technology just wasn't good enough for what was actually going on. Because they tested it for lead paint. And lead is a relatively easy thing to end up finding, especially if you are testing on, pretty, decent machinery. Especially stuff that you would find at laboratories. But, it just makes me wonder, what were the original faces? And how could they have just gone away after she died? And, of course, that brought back the theory of maybe it was just a photographic phenomenon caused by her being a psychic that she just, subconsciously created. And this just confuses me again. Because what I'm thinking is she could have been painting the faces in the first place. Because honestly, anyone would do it if they got the pros that she did, But whenever they went away, it makes me wonder how, if her second son possibly ended up picking up on her style of painting, and possibly ended up painting on that concrete, but then again, that would also not really answer why the tests were, a little bit off, and why the tests didn't pick up any paints or any dyes. And, if you... still to this day, you can still go to the house and figure out and go try to figure this out. You can still go to the house and check it out. You could still, the tourism there is still pretty big because, if a house had faces in the floor and it just stopped happening, that might even end up boosting the amount of tourism there. But, if it's still to this day, you can still visit the house, and you can really very much get a better understanding of why I hate Spanish floors. And, I'm going to try to end this on a happier note than just saying that this was possibly all a giant fraud. So, thank you guys. I hope you guys are having a great day. If you guys have any ideas to what could have possibly went on there, please, send them to me because I'm still kind of stumped on, possible solutions to this